everyone, this is Elly Mae with Silhouette Secrets Plus, and today I wanted to share with you how you can use this Frisket film. It is a low-tack masking film that says it's designed for use on paper, illustrations, board, drawing, and watercolor papers. Basically, it's designed as a low-tack mask that you can use for all kinds of different projects. In today's video, I'm going to share how I'm going to use this. I'm going to use it with the Silhouette Studio, and you're not going to probably be able to see this, but maybe if I rotate this a little bit. I have cut designs with my Silhouette cutting machine. You could do this with any cutting machine or even use a die cut machine as well, such as a Big Shot or other brand of cutting machine. We're going to take this, we're going to make some cards with some cardstock, some inks, and I have all these supplies here. I have some adhesive for applying my card together. I want to give you a quick look at how I set this up in the Silhouette Studio software and cut with my Silhouette cutting machine, and then we'll take a look at the process of putting this card together and how I'm going to use this Frisket film. In the Silhouette Studio software, I start by setting up my page size to the size of the Grafix Frisket film, and then I'm going to draw a rectangle and size that to a US card size base. And then I'm going to grab some files out of my Silhouette library, and I'm going to use that card base rectangle in order to size those to what I want for my project. Everyone's project is going to vary. When you have a cutting machine and software, you do have unlimited options in what you can create and cut with this material and in the projects that you create. You can also do this with a die cut machine as well, and you would use your dies that you have for that machine. Then I'm going to save my file. That way I can come back if I want to cut this design again and easily cut that out of more Frisket film in the future. I'm going to get my Silhouette cutting mat ready to go. So I'm going to load the Frisket film onto the cutting mat. You want the shiny side up, paper side is on the cutting mat. So you're cutting through the top layer. Only the top layer is all you need to cut through, so I'm going to do some test cuts first. So I turned off the cut lines for my flower designs, and I'm going to send this with the glossy vinyl setting for my first test cut. And what you'll see here is it didn't quite cut through. Cut settings can vary based on blade life, machine, and the material you are cutting. So it is always a great idea to save materials and time to do your test cuts. I was able to get that to weed cleanly, so I went ahead and turned the cut lines back on for my flower designs and sent that design to cut. So once it's all finished, I'm going to test that again and make sure those pieces came out. Now, once I've cut the designs out with my Silhouette cutting machine or whatever machine you are using, you could even cut by hand. You could cut up little itty bitty shapes, or there are all kinds of things. So hopefully this video will give you some ideas and some inspiration for that. I'm going to go ahead and weed this design. Since it is a clear product, you are not going to really be able to see the actual design until we get to the ink part process. So I'm just going to carefully remove this. And then what you'll see here is I'm weeding away the excess around those designs, and that's what you're seeing come off of the backing. So this is the actual designs. Now you can see it just a little bit better. The designs have been cut out of this. This is a low tack mask. You could save this if you wanted to and cut shapes out of it, or pieces if you put this somewhere safe and then add it back onto the backing. You can even see my original test cut right here in the corner that I had to do 2 test cuts just to get that the settings correct. Check out the description below for additional information on that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to remove all the other pieces here, and you want to remove all the inside bits of these. So I'm going to take my time and I'm going to weed those out because I want to keep the flower designs intact. And you could cut these apart if you wanted to. What I'm actually going to do is leave this on the full sheet. When I'm done with this masking, I'm going to place it back on, and you could reuse it as long as it is sticky and maintaining that stick to your material for future projects. So I'm going to take some time and weed this apart, and then we'll come back to our card. You do want to be careful when you go to weed this. I didn't want to continue poking into the backing. It is a very thin material that is very flexible, so just be careful, and my fingers worked better. Now, once all of the designs are weeded out and I simply have my design only, I am going to set up for brushing this on using some inks. So I just have a sheet of copy paper underneath here, and then I have my base that I'm going to be inking on top of. With this Frisket film, it is a low tack material. I am just going to simply carefully remove it from the backing sheet, and then I can lay it down on my card, and that copy paper is actually going to help too to hold it in place, and it'll help the Frisket to stick to the backing there, so it'll hold this base in the location where it's at. And then I'm just going to take a couple of these, and you can create your card with this. So this is going to act as a mask, and wherever we place this, it is going to leave a white space underneath when we go to ink. So you do want the Frisket film to be secured to the card base, and just make sure that is smoothed down. And let's add one more down in here. And you just want to go slow when you peel that off. And we'll go ahead and place this one here and smooth that down. So the copy paper is acting as for two purposes. It is going to be where we brush our ink off of or onto, so it doesn't get saturated and go off the edges of this card. And then it also is going to help to hold this in place. So an added bonus, because that Frisket film can stick to the card, the copy paper. So we'll set that aside, and then we'll pick up some inks here, and you can use any color combinations that you like. Have fun with this. And you can use either a brush type to sponge it on with, or you can use this, just a craft sponge that I have here. So I just grabbed this, and you want to just make sure some of these inks, my inks are very well saturated, so you want to be careful with that. You can always add more ink, but you can't take it away. So we can just kind of go in here and start adding some ink in. And what you'll start to see here, make sure that it doesn't lift in those areas. I do like to ink with a sponge and apply in kind of like gradients, because then you can get a different look. It's not a solid color, although you could do a solid color if you'd like as well. You can get some texture from that and some different looks, and then blend it in together. So let's do just a couple different shades of pink. So there's one, and then I will continue to do the rest of the card here, and then we'll come back to take it off. I have sped up the portion of this video, but I wanted to share the entire process so you can continue to add inks and start light with your hand, and then you can continue to add more colors or additional color layers of that same color over top to darken that. Now, once you have your card how you would like it with your ink, you can go ahead and then just carefully remove. If I lift this up, you're already going to see underneath where the edges are. That is going to be the same effect we have on our card. So you can go ahead, and if you're careful, you do want to let your ink dry, but you can go ahead and you can remove that, stick it back onto your backing, and you can use those for future projects. So we have our design here, and every card you create can be a little bit different. Give it that unique look. Now, it's not only limited to cards. I'll show here in a second. So there is another And then once I am ready to go, I can add this onto a backing, stamp a sentiment here, which we'll do, but I want to show you how this would look with a couple different backings. That probably doesn't go, but this one actually makes it pop a little bit. So that might be what I do, but you could also do this in, say, a mixed media journal. So I have a page here. You could take and do it on this page, or you could paint on this page and then add that Frisket film as well. So it gives you an idea of what you could do. Now I have one more here I was gonna do this with. This is a sunflower, and so I'm going to go through the same process and share this project as well. In this case, I'm placing the Frisket film on the entire card, so there is nothing to hold it down. So if you did want something to hold down all of those edges, you could use a simple piece of washi tape. I'm going to take 2 of these yellow inks here. I'm going to start with the lighter one first and grab a brush. And then just carefully make sure everything is stuck down. You don't want a heavy hand with this. And I'm just going to start brushing that ink on again. This is a little bit drier of an ink pad. And you can just blend some inks in here. Create different backgrounds with it. Take your time and just let yourself play with the different color palettes and how much ink you're applying and what you are working with. Every card you design or every project you design with this method could vary. Here I am taking the lighter yellow and I am making the background, but you can see when I added a second layer on top of that, it darkens that area just a little bit on the left-hand side of that card. Then I'm going to take another darker ink and I'm going to, I started off just in the center and then decided I wanted a little bit more on the flower petals. So I just kind of brushed that into the area of the flower petals. And I'm not trying to stay within the lines, but it sort of worked out that way. So I added some darkened color in there and just have fun and play with it. And then I took one more darker color and added into the center and then kind of spread that out from the center into the petals to give it a little bit different look. And then when you are ready, you can go ahead and remove that Frisket film once the ink is dry. So make sure that's it so you don't smear it underneath. And if you're careful and you do not tear the Frisket film, you can reuse that. So there is a little bit different look with some ink blending. Now you could try and clean those off too, or you can just wait until the ink is dry. But just a simple wipe with a paper towel should help. But here's a look at that card. So we'll go ahead and finish these out. And you have some unique cards using this Frisket film that could be cut with a cutting machine. So your design choices are really unlimited, or you could also hand cut or use a die cutting machine such as a Big Shot with some dies as well. Think of ideas of the supplies that you have on hand, grab some Frisket film, and let's finish these projects. Once you have the background stamped and inked however you would like that, you can grab some sentiment stamps, or you could cut those with a cutting machine too, just whatever you want to do to finish off these cards. I simply grabbed a couple sentiment stamps and then stamped it with some inks, with just the inks I had there on the table, and added those onto the front of this card. Once I was done with that, I'm going to take all of the pieces and I'm going to just adhere them together. So I'm adding that to a mat to give it a little bit of a pop, and then adding it to the front of a card base. I did that with the second card. I ran into a little problem there with my adhesive, which happens all the time. And I just went and grabbed another one and then finished that out for the card. It was a little off center, so I used a little tool I had on hand and popped that back up and then recentered it. I just use the eyeball method when I'm doing this. And here is a look at these finished cards. They turned out fabulous. I can't wait to make more things with this Frisket film. Lots of ideas, and I hope you have gotten a few too. If you have any questions, please let us know in the comments below. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.